The explosion came first, not fire, but a metallic shriek that cut through the boardroom like glass tearing steel. The Hydra Drive unit, Horizon Robotics' $2 million prototype, sputtered and spat sparks beneath the cold lights. Cassandra Wolf's heels struck the marble like verdicts. She turned, her diamond watch flashing. "A janitor thinks he can fix that?" The room froze. 20 executives stared at the man in the doorway as if he'd wandered into a sacred temple. Darius Cole, 35, stood still, a trash bag hanging from one rough hand, the orange jumpsuit of the maintenance crew too bright for the sterile gray room. He didn't flinch. In a world built on egos and glass walls, silence was the only shield that worked. Cassandra waved dismissively. "Get that thing out of here." And the smell, God. Her voice carried across the panoramic view of downtown Austin, where Horizon Robotics towered over the city like a monument to ambition. She was 41, sharp, polished, and feared. Her company had revolutionized autonomous logistics until the Hydra Drive engine began failing. Across the table, Kenji Nakamura from Osaka Tech Capital adjusted his tie. "Ms. Wolf," he said evenly, "our partners in Tokyo expect a flawless demonstration tomorrow. We can't afford instability." Cassandra's smile was tight. "You'll have your success, Mr. Nakamura. My engineers are the best in the country." No one noticed the faint twitch in Darius's brow as the engine coughed again. He heard what others didn't, the rhythm wrong, the pulse uneven. To him, machines had voices. This one was crying. The meeting rolled on, numbers flickering across glass screens, deadlines, budgets, failures. 6 weeks of tests. 3 engineering teams. Every attempt ended the same. Overheating after 14 minutes and 37 seconds. The same cryptic message, harmonic disruption detected. The experts from MIT and Stanford had blamed software, sensors, even cosmic interference. None had thought to listen. When the executives left, Cassandra's perfume lingered like arrogance. "Clean it up before morning," she ordered. Darius moved quietly between chairs, gathering cups and discarded papers. He stopped beside the Hydra Drive, resting a hand on its warm casing. The vibration spoke to him, strained, restless, wrong. His mind drifted back to Atlanta, to his grandfather Luther's garage. "Engines don't lie, boy," the old man used to say. "You just have to listen." Darius had learned more from the hum of pistons than from any classroom. But life had other plans. His mother's illness had swallowed his future. College became night shifts and hospital bills. When the office emptied and the city lights shimmered on the floor, Darius stayed behind. The blueprints lay open on the conference table, dense with numbers and symbols. He traced a line from one margin to another. Inches, millimeters. 2 different languages trying to speak as one. The smallest misalignment could twist harmony into chaos. He exhaled softly. Maybe that was all it was. A translation problem. Down the hall, Cassandra's voice cut through the silence, barking at her engineers. $67 million. Do you understand what's at stake? Her fury echoed through the glass corridors. Darius paused, listening to her heels strike the floor, every step a warning shot. He looked back at the engine. The steel reflected his face, tired eyes, steady hands, a quiet defiance. The janitor she mocked might be the only person in this building who actually heard the truth, humming beneath the noise. Outside, Austin's skyline pulsed with neon promise. Inside, pride disguised itself as progress, and no one realized the solution was standing right there, mop in hand, hearing what none of them could. Tomorrow, when Cassandra faced her investors, the Hydra Drive would fail again, and the man they dismissed as invisible would be the one who knew exactly how to make it sing. The building slept, but Darius Cole stayed behind. Horizon Robotics after hours was unrecognizable, quiet, stripped of chatter and ambition, filled only with the low hum of machines. The Hydra Drive unit stood at the center of the glass boardroom, its metal shell still warm, the scent of burnt coolant lingering in the air. Darius crouched beside it, fingertips brushing the casing, feeling faint tremors that no computer could interpret. Somewhere inside, the machine was confused, fighting itself, out of rhythm. Blueprints lay scattered across the table, pages filled with neat columns of numbers and symbols, inches on one page, millimeters on another. The math was correct, but the conversation between systems was broken. "It's not the code," he murmured. "It's the language." He pulled a small notebook from his jumpsuit pocket, its corners bent and stained with grease. Inside were notes and diagrams from community college, reminders of what he'd once dreamed of becoming. He heard his grandfather's voice, calm and certain. "Engines got rhythm, boy." When they stutter, someone stopped listening. Darius smiled faintly, the hum of the city outside merging with the whisper of the machine. By dawn, Austin's skyline glowed copper. Darius clocked out quietly and drove home to his small apartment on the east side. His mother slept in the next room, her oxygen machine sighing softly. Medical bills lined the counter in uneven stacks. He brewed coffee and whispered, "Hold on, Mama. I'll fix this. I promise." Later that morning, his phone buzzed with a company memo. Department restructuring, maintenance positions under review. The words sank like lead. If he lost this job, everything else fell apart. At Horizon, Cassandra Wolf prowled the boardroom like a storm in heels. "Our investors land in 2 days," she barked. "If that engine fails again, we lose $60 million. The engineers sat frozen, pale with exhaustion. Brad Holman, head of R&D, muttered, "We've rebuilt the module 3 times. The harmonic readings still collapse." Cassandra's voice sliced through him. "Then rebuild it a 4th. I don't pay for excuses." Dr. Aiko Tanaka, Horizon's visiting consultant from Tokyo, stood silently near the glass wall. Decades in robotics had taught her that brilliance rarely shouted. It listened. She watched Cassandra's team spiral into chaos and arrogance, drown insight. That evening, after everyone left, Aiko walked the lab floor. Through the glass, she noticed Darius pushing his cleaning cart, humming softly as he worked. He paused beside the Hydra Drive, resting his palm on its casing as if checking for a pulse. The hum shifted, faltered, then steadied. "You're out of sync," he murmured. Aiko's eyes narrowed. His voice wasn't guessing. It was diagnosing. She lingered unseen, studying him. The janitor's calm focus carried a weight she couldn't ignore. The next morning, Darius arrived early to reset the conference room for the investor rehearsal. Leon, Cassandra's young assistant, smirked as he passed. "Big day, janitor. Don't touch anything worth more than your paycheck." Darius ignored him. Silence was armor, and he'd worn it well for years. Executives rehearsed their speeches, voices polished and hollow. Cassandra stood before the screen, rehearsing her lines. Innovation meets precision. Horizon leads the future of autonomous tech. But beneath the hum of applause, Darius heard a faint metallic knock. Uneven, desperate. The Hydra Drive was speaking again. He hesitated, eyes locked on the warning lights flashing amber. One mistake could end his job forever. Before leaving, he placed his hand on the machine and whispered, "I hear you!" Across the room, Dr. Aiko looked up sharply. The man everyone ignored had just understood something no one else in that building could. Morning sunlight poured through the glass facade of Horizon Robotics, flooding the marble floors with sterile brightness. The air carried the scent of espresso, burnt circuits, and quiet panic. In 48 hours, the Japanese investors would arrive, and the Hydra Drive prototype would either save or destroy the company. Cassandra Wolfe entered the boardroom with the precision of a blade. Phone in one hand, coffee in the other, she didn't walk so much as command the space. "No more excuses," she snapped into the receiver. "If the Hydra Drive fails again, the Osaka Tech contract dies. Fix it or start packing." She ended the call and turned to her engineers. "Start the test. Now." The Hydra Drive unit sat gleaming under fluorescent light, a $2 million monument to ambition. Brad Holman, head of R&D, keyed in the command. The machine hummed to life, steady and confident, its rhythm echoing through the room. For 14 minutes, Cassandra allowed herself to breathe. At 14 minutes and 37 seconds, the hum faltered. A sharp metallic knock, then smoke. The system went dark. The room fell into silence. Cassandra's voice cut through it, cold and surgical. "That's your progress?" Brad tried to respond, but she raised a hand. "I don't pay for theories. I pay for solutions." Her heels cracked against the marble as she stormed out, fury trailing like perfume. Outside the glass walls, Darius Cole mopped the hallway, pretending not to notice. But he heard everything. The uneven knock, the panic, the silence afterward. That same broken rhythm he'd heard the night before. The Hydra Drive wasn't failing. It was trying to speak. When the last executive left, Darius entered the boardroom quietly. The engine sat there, warm and trembling beneath the soft hiss of cooling fans. He laid a hand on its casing. "You're not broken," he murmured. "You're misunderstood." He glanced at the diagnostic display. Numbers blinked in alternating units, imperial and metric. To most people, harmless. To him, a death sentence for harmony. The system wasn't communicating in one language. It was arguing in two. The door opened behind him. Dr. Aiko Tanaka stood in the doorway, poised and sharp, her expression unreadable. "You shouldn't be in here," she said softly. "I know," Darius replied. "I just wanted to understand why it keeps failing." "Do you?" she asked. He hesitated, then nodded. "It's not code. It's rhythm. The tolerances don't match. The machine's fighting itself." Aiko stepped closer, curiosity flickering behind her calm eyes. "You're saying the calibration is out of sync because of unit conversions?" "Yes, ma'am. Like forcing two orchestras to play in different keys. It sounds fine for a while until it collapses." She studied the screen he'd highlighted. "That's not in any report." He smiled faintly. "I'm not on the reports." For a long moment, neither spoke. The hum of the city outside filled the silence. Then she asked, "And how would you fix it?" "Bridge the frequencies," he said simply. "Give both systems a translator, something to let them find the same rhythm." Before she could answer, Cassandra's voice echoed down the hall. "Tanaka, the investors want progress, not poetry." Aiko's gaze lingered on Darius. "You should leave. For now." He nodded, pushing his cart toward the door. But as he left, she turned back to the Hydra Drive, her eyes narrowing with new focus. For the first time in 6 weeks, Dr. Aiko Tanaka felt something that had been missing at Horizon Robotics. Hope. Maybe the problem wasn't the machine at all. Maybe it was the people who had forgotten how to listen to it. Night wrapped Austin in silver light, and Horizon Robotics Tower glowed like a beacon against the dark. The building was nearly empty, its polished corridors humming with the faint breath of machines left running too long. Darius Cole moved through the silence with his cleaning cart, the wheels whispering against marble floors. Horizon after hours was a skeleton. Cold, gleaming, full of secrets no one cared to hear. He slipped into the engineering bay where the Hydra drive unit rested beneath a glass shield. The machine looked peaceful in sleep, but Darius knew better. He closed the door softly and crouched beside it, placing his palm on the cool casing. "You're not broken," he murmured. "You're just tired of being misunderstood." The diagnostic screen glowed nearby, still looping the same message. Harmonic instability detected. Darius studied the data. The pattern repeated every 14 minutes and 37 seconds, like a heartbeat out of rhythm. Not random, predictable, mechanical. He took out his worn notebook and began scribbling calculations. Millimeters, inches, conversions. His pencil tapped against the table as he hummed an old tune his grandfather used to whistle in their garage back in Atlanta. "You're trying to speak two languages," he whispered, "and nobody's listening." Above him, a red light blinked, the security camera watching silently. Across town, Cassandra Wolfe sat in her high-rise condo overlooking the river. The city lights flickered on the glass, reflecting her face, perfect, controlled, but tense. She poured wine, ignoring the untouched dinner beside her. The image of the Hydra drive smoking replayed in her head like a curse. $60 million on the line, and her empire wobbling. She called Brad Holman, her R&D director. "Status?" Brad's voice cracked through static. "No progress." "We replaced the sensors, recalibrated the AI, rewrote." "Then you're missing something," she snapped. "Fix it, or I'll find someone who can." She hung up before he could reply, her hand trembling slightly. Power used to make her feel invincible. Now, it just made her lonely. Back at Horizon, Dr. Aiko Tanaka returned to the lab long after midnight. Something had drawn her back, a thought she couldn't shake. Through the glass, she saw Darius kneeling beside the Hydra drive, notebook open, lips moving as he compared data points. He wasn't guessing. He was solving. She entered quietly. "You again?" she said. Darius startled but didn't back away. "Couldn't sleep. I think I found it." Her tone softened. "Show me." He pointed at the screen. "These vibrations happen every 14 minutes. It's not software, it's mechanical. Metric and imperial measurements don't match. The system's literally fighting itself." Aiko bent over the data, realization flickering across her calm face. That's why every recalibration failed. The tolerances never aligned. Darius nodded. The machine's bilingual and no one taught it to translate. Aiko smiled faintly. "You remind me of an engineer I worked with at Toyota. He said, 'Machines have souls.'" "My grandfather said that too," Darius replied. "And they don't lie. People do." The door slammed open. Cassandra stood there, her fury sharp as broken glass. "What the hell is going on here?" Aiko straightened smoothly. Mr. Cole was just cleaning. Cassandra's eyes flicked between them. "At midnight?" She stepped forward, voice low and venomous. "Touch that machine again, janitor, and you're gone. Permanently." Darius met her stare, silent but steady. When she left, the tension lingered like smoke. Aiko turned to him. Be careful. What you found could save the company, or ruin you. Darius nodded. Pretending not to know would ruin me faster. Behind them, the Hydra drive hummed faintly, as if it had just taken its first breath of understanding. Morning broke sharp and bright over Austin, but inside Horizon Robotics the air felt heavy. The Hydra drive failure from the night before had spread through the company like a virus. In the cafeteria, whispers followed every executive. The janitor's name surfaced in half-heard conversations, though no one dared say it too loud. Cassandra Wolfe arrived before sunrise, her black heels echoing across the marble floor. She hadn't slept. Her phone buzzed endlessly, messages from investors, journalists, and board members. She silenced it, straightened her suit, and stalked into the boardroom where Brad Holman was waiting. "Give me something good," she demanded. Brad swallowed. "We've run 40 simulations overnight. Same result. Overheating, harmonic collapse, system shut down." Cassandra's eyes burned. "So 6 weeks, 3 engineering teams, and millions of dollars later, we're exactly where we started?" "Yes, ma'am." She slammed her folder onto the table. "Then maybe it's time to clean house." Down on the maintenance floor, Darius Cole scrubbed a spotless counter just to keep his hands busy. The silence felt heavier than usual. He replayed Cassandra's warning in his head. "Touch that machine again, and you're gone." He couldn't stop thinking about what he'd seen. The Hydra drive wasn't defective. It was misaligned. The solution was simple, almost insulting in its simplicity. But how do you tell people who won't listen that they're deaf? Leon, Cassandra's young assistant, appeared at the door, smirking. "Congratulations, man. You're famous. Cassandra had security review footage from last night. Guess who she found chatting up Dr. Tanaka?" Darius froze. "She watched the cameras?" Leon laughed. "Oh, yeah. She's furious. Says you touched company property. HR's already drafting your termination file." Darius exhaled slowly, anger flickering beneath his calm. "I was just cleaning." Leon shrugged. "Better start packing anyway. Horizon doesn't like overachievers who mop floors." He walked off, leaving the scent of arrogance behind. By mid-morning, the entire staff was herded into the main auditorium. The air buzzed with dread. Darius stood in the back, unseen as always, gripping his cleaning cart like a shield. Cassandra stepped onto the stage, her posture regal, voice sharp enough to cut glass. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, "we face a critical moment. Our flagship engine has failed yet again. Investors expect answers by tomorrow, and I expect loyalty today. That means removing distractions, permanently." A murmur rippled through the crowd. She scanned the faces, eyes gleaming with purpose. Effective immediately, all non-essential staff will be terminated. That includes maintenance and technical support. Darius felt the blood drain from his face. His mother's hospital bills flashed in his mind. The room blurred. He could walk away now, disappear quietly, or... He raised his hand. "Ma'am." The entire room turned. Cassandra blinked, caught off guard. "Yes, Mr. Cole, isn't it?" "Yes, ma'am." His voice carried clear and steady. "I think I know why the Hydra drive keeps failing." Gasps rippled through the crowd. A few engineers exchanged smirks. Cassandra's lips curled into a mocking smile. "Oh, do you now? Enlighten us." "The problem isn't software," Darius said. "It's rhythm. The calibration's mismatched between metric and imperial tolerances. The system's out of harmony with itself." Laughter broke out in the front rows. Cassandra raised a hand, silencing them. "That's quite a theory for someone whose job is cleaning floors." He met her gaze, unwavering. Sometimes the person who cleans up the mess understands it better than the one who made it. Cassandra's smile froze. For the first time, the room felt electric. Somewhere in the audience, Dr. Aiko Tanaka leaned forward, intrigued. The janitor had just challenged the queen of Horizon Robotics, and the entire company was watching. The silence that followed was almost violent. 200 people stared at Darius Cole, their disbelief hanging in the air like smoke. Cassandra Wolfe blinked once, twice, her composure cracking for half a second before she smiled, a slow, dangerous smile. "Well," she said, voice dripping amusement, "our janitor has opinions on advanced engineering." Nervous laughter spread across the auditorium. Cassandra stepped away from the podium, heels striking the floor like gunshots. "Tell you what, Mr. Cole," she continued, circling toward him. "Since you're so confident, let's make this interesting." Darius didn't move. He knew that tone, the tone of someone who wanted blood. Cassandra stopped in front of him. "You claim you can fix the Hydra drive, something my MIT-trained team hasn't done in 6 weeks. So here's your chance." She turned to the audience. "In 2 hours, right here, in front of our entire staff and our investors, you'll prove it." The crowd erupted into murmurs. She raised her voice over them. "If you succeed, something we both know won't happen, I'll promote you to senior engineering consultant. 6-figure salary, full benefits." She paused. "But when you fail, you'll be escorted out of this building permanently. No severance, no references." Gasps filled the room. Darius stood still, expression unreadable. Dr. Aiko Tanaka rose from the front row. "If this test happens," she said calmly, "it must have proper oversight. I'll serve as a neutral witness." Cassandra hesitated, then nodded, though irritation flickered behind her eyes. "Fine. A witness. Perfect. Let's make it official." She gestured toward the cameras mounted along the walls. "We'll live stream the challenge on our company channels. Let the world see what happens when unqualified people try to play engineer." Her assistants scrambled into motion, pulling cables, adjusting lights. Within minutes, a live banner blinked across Horizon's social feeds. Horizon Challenge Engineering Justice Innovation, at work. The staff buzzed with morbid excitement. Phones came out. Bets were whispered. Some looked at Darius with pity, others with cruel amusement. He stood silently as security officers positioned themselves near the exits. Aiko approached him quietly. "You don't have to do this," she said. "She's setting you up to fail." Darius shook his head. "I can't walk away now." "Then at least let me help." He met her eyes, steady and certain. "All I need is access to the diagnostics and a fair timer." She nodded once. "You'll have both." Across the room, Cassandra turned to her marketing director. "I want every camera rolling. If he fails, I want it trending before he's out the door." When the stage was ready, Cassandra took the microphone again. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is what innovation looks like: courage, curiosity, and a healthy dose of humiliation. Let's begin." The crowd followed her upstairs to the executive boardroom, now transformed into a stage. The Hydra drive sat gleaming under bright lights, surrounded by cameras and diagnostic monitors. Darius entered last, pushing his maintenance cart as if it were armor. Aiko stood beside him, clipboard in hand, her calm presence radiating authority. "You have 2 hours," she said clearly. "Time starts now." Cassandra folded her arms, smirking. "Try not to set anything on fire." Darius stepped forward, placing his hands on the Hydra drive. The room fell silent, except for the faint whir of cooling fans. His eyes closed for a moment, listening. The vibration spoke to him, a conversation of gears and electrons. The machine wasn't angry. It was begging to be understood. Somewhere behind him, Cassandra whispered to an assistant, "Watch. He'll crash it in 10 minutes. Aiko, arms crossed, murmured under her breath, "Or he'll change everything." The boardroom felt more like an arena than a workplace. 200 employees crowded behind the glass walls, faces pressed close, phones recording every move. Bright LED lights gleamed off the chrome surfaces. In the center stood Darius Cole, hands steady, eyes locked on the hydrodrive unit that glistened under pressure. Across from him, Cassandra Wolfe leaned against the table, arms folded, her smirk daring him to fail. 2 hours, Mr. Cole, she said. Let's see if the janitor can outsmart MIT. Dr. Aiko Tanaka lifted her clipboard. Timer starts now. Darius didn't rush. He placed both palms on the engine surface, closed his eyes, and listened. To the crowd, it looked absurd, a janitor meditating on a machine. But Darius wasn't guessing. Beneath the hum of circuits, the hydrodrive's rhythm wavered like a heartbeat out of sync. Every vibration told him something. 2 systems built in different languages, fighting for control. He opened his eyes. "Permission to run the engine manually," he said. "Granted," Aiko replied. Cassandra chuckled. "Go ahead. Entertain us." The engine roared to life, deep and metallic. Darius adjusted the RPM, eyes on the data monitor, ears tuned to every note. At 2,800 revolutions, the hum shifted. Subtle. Wrong. He raised his voice over the sound. That's where it breaks. The rhythm collapses. Brad Holman frowned. "What rhythm?" "It's an AI engine, not a drum kit." Darius pointed to the screen. "That Spike? The AI's sending commands faster than the hardware can respond. It's not software failure, it's a harmonic mismatch." Laughter rippled across the crowd. Cassandra's tone dripped sarcasm. How poetic. Maybe the engine needs therapy. Darius ignored her. "You tested the frequencies the AI expected," he said, eyes on Brad. "Not the ones the hardware actually produces." Aiko leaned in, studying the chart. "He's right." She highlighted the data stream. "This pattern repeats every 14 minutes and 37 seconds. It's mechanical resonance, not coding error." The laughter died. Engineers began whispering. Cassandra's smirk faltered, replaced by faint unease. "So what's your solution?" she asked. "First, admit it's not broken," Darius said. "Then help it find balance." He requested the original German specs from the manufacturer. The numbers confirmed his suspicion. These components were built to metric precision, 1,000th of a millimeter, he explained. But our AI controls use inches, rounding the values. The system's fighting its own design. Aiko's eyes lit with understanding. "That's why the engine overheats, it's chasing an impossible alignment." Cassandra exhaled sharply. "Fine. You've made your point. Now fix it." Darius nodded once. "I'll need access to the harmonic dampening array." She gestured dramatically. "By all means. Show us your miracle." He rolled up his sleeves and opened the access panel. The scent of warm metal filled the room. Every movement he made was deliberate, precise, the ease of someone who'd rebuilt engines since childhood. The audience leaned forward, captivated. Aiko whispered to no one in particular. "He's not calculating by data. He's feeling the resonance." Minutes passed. Darius adjusted nodes, tightened couplings, and recalibrated timing. His hands worked with quiet confidence, guided by intuition and sound. When he stepped back, he gave a small nod. "Run it again." Aiko pressed the command. The Hydra drive started smoothly, its tone low and even. The vibrations settled into perfect harmony, steady and strong. The engineers gasped. Brad stared at the readings. Temperature stable, no spikes, no error code. Darius smiled faintly, wiping grease from his fingers. "There," he said softly. "Now it's finally speaking our language." And for the first time, Horizon Robotics listened. The sound that followed was unlike anything the Horizon Robotics team had heard in 6 weeks. Smooth, balanced, alive. The Hydra drive purred like a contented animal, every vibration steady and pure. On the monitors, diagnostic readings turned from red to green. Temperature, stable. Pressure, optimal. Harmonic frequency, locked. The impossible had just become real. A wave of gasps rippled through the boardroom. Brad Holman blinked at the data, speechless. "This can't be right," he murmured. "It's running past the 14-minute threshold. No overheating, no fault code." Dr. Aiko Tanaka leaned over the screen, eyes wide. "It's not just running," she said softly. "It's exceeding the projected efficiency by nearly 3%. Cassandra Wolfe stood frozen near the window, her reflection trembling in the glass. For once, words escaped her. Darius Cole didn't look at the audience. He kept his gaze on the engine, listening as if to a heartbeat finding its rhythm again. When the last vibration evened out, he nodded and shut down the power sequence. Silence followed. A silence heavier than applause. Then the room erupted. Employees who had laughed minutes earlier now clapped hesitantly, then louder. Some cheered. Cameras zoomed in, capturing every angle of the man who had just rewritten their fate. Online, the live stream comment section exploded. Hydra drive fix engineering. Miracle. The janitor who listened. Cassandra's assistant rushed to her side, whispering, "The feed's blowing up. We're trending in 4 countries. Cassandra didn't answer. Her jaw tightened, pride warring with disbelief. "It's temporary," she said finally, voice low. "Run a full diagnostic before anyone celebrates." Brad shook his head. "Already did. It's solid." Mr. Cole was right. Aiko straightened, her tone calm but commanding. He wasn't guessing Cassandra. He understood the machine's rhythm better than anyone here. All eyes turned to Darius. He looked exhausted, grease streaking his hands, but his posture was steady. "It wasn't magic," he said simply. "You just had the right answers in 2 different languages." Aiko smiled faintly. "And you were the translator." The applause swelled again, but Cassandra cut through it with a sharp gesture. "Enough. We'll see how it performs under full load." She motioned toward the technicians. "Connect it to the autonomous control module." Within minutes, the Hydra drive was linked to the prototype delivery vehicle parked in the courtyard below. The glass walls gave a perfect view as the vehicle's lights flickered to life. Aiko glanced at Darius. "Would you like to do the honors?" He nodded. "Let's see if she can dance." Aiko pressed the ignition command. The Hydra drive's hum deepened, energy flowing into the vehicle. The truck rolled backward out of its bay, turned, and navigated across the courtyard with mechanical grace. Employees crowded the windows, cheering as it executed flawless movements, parking, reversing, recalibrating. 14 minutes passed, then 20, then 30. No failure, no smoke. Cassandra's face drained of color. The investors watching remotely began sending messages to her phone, all with one word: impressive. Aiko turned to her. "You wanted results. You have them." The applause grew deafening. Darius stood motionless, the noise washing over him like waves. For the first time, people weren't looking through him. They were seeing him. He exhaled, glancing toward Aiko. My grandfather used to say an engine just needs someone to listen. She nodded, eyes shining. You did more than listen. You gave it a voice. Cassandra forced a smile for the cameras, but her eyes betrayed fury. This wasn't triumph. It was humiliation. As the live stream ended, the world saw a headline forming. A janitor fixes what genius engineers could not. For Horizon Robotics, everything had changed. For Cassandra Wolf, the real reckoning had just begun. Applause still echoed through the boardroom when Cassandra Wolf finally snapped. Enough, she said sharply, her voice slicing through the noise. The demonstration is over. The clapping stopped at once. 200 employees stood frozen, the only sound the soft hum of the Hydra drive cooling down. Cassandra turned toward the panoramic windows, her reflection fractured in the glass. Every camera had captured her expression, shock, anger, something close to disbelief. Dr. Aiko Tanaka was the first to speak. Mr. Cole's diagnosis was accurate, she said, and his implementation flawless. I'll be recommending we document this process immediately. Brad Holman, still staring at the data feed, nodded quickly. It's true. The harmonic alignment is perfect. I've never seen readings this clean. Cassandra spun around. And what exactly do you expect me to do? Rewrite 6 weeks of reports to credit a janitor? Aiko's gaze didn't waver. If the janitor accomplished what your engineers couldn't, then yes. A ripple of nervous laughter spread across the room. Cassandra noticed and froze them with a glare. She picked up a microfiber cloth and wiped a smear of grease from the table, Darius's fingerprint, a symbol of everything that now undermined her. You all think this is inspiring, she said tightly. But companies aren't built on miracles. They're built on structure, on leadership. Darius spoke quietly, but clearly. Then maybe your structure's what's broken. The room went still. Cassandra's head snapped up. For a moment she said nothing, caught between rage and shock. The door burst open. Leon, her assistant, rushed in. The Osaka Tech delegation is on video conference, he announced. They want a live update. Cassandra straightened her jacket. Fine. Tell them the engine issue is resolved. Dr. Aiko stepped forward. No, she said calmly. I'll speak to them myself. She tapped a button on the console, and the wall screen flickered to life. The faces of Kenji Nakamura and the other Japanese investors appeared, their expressions expectant. Good evening, gentlemen, Aiko began. The Hydra Drive unit is fully operational. Its previous failures were caused by tolerance misalignment between metric and imperial calibration. The error has been corrected thanks to the diagnostic work of Mr. Darius Cole. Kenji's eyebrows lifted. A janitor? Aiko smiled faintly. A maintenance consultant with a remarkable ear for mechanical rhythm. Kenji nodded slowly, impressed. Then Horizon Robotics has found something rare, humility and intelligence working together. His voice hardened slightly. We're increasing our investment by 20%, contingent on Mr. Cole's continued participation in future projects. Gasps rippled through the room. Cassandra's expression faltered before she forced a thin smile. Of course. We'll formalize his new position immediately. The call ended to murmurs of amazement. Aiko turned to Darius. You didn't just repair an engine, you saved this company. Darius shook his head, modest as always. I didn't save it, ma'am. The machine did. I just listened. Laughter and applause followed. Cassandra stood apart, her face unreadable. The cameras caught everything. The crowd celebrating, Aiko's approval, and the woman who had built her empire watching it slip from her hands. Aiko addressed the team. Effective immediately, Mr. Cole will be recognized for his contribution. Document his findings, his methods, and his new title. Senior Diagnostic Engineer. Cheers erupted. Darius met Cassandra's gaze across the room. His expression was calm, even kind, but she looked away first. On social media, the story spread like wildfire. Hidden talent, engineering, justice, the janitor who saved Horizon. And as Horizon Robotics celebrated a miracle, Cassandra Wolfe walked back to her office, closed the door, and stared at the headlines, lighting her phone. The man she tried to silence had just saved her empire. The next morning, Horizon Robotics pulsed with noise and disbelief. Overnight, the world had crowned a new hero, the janitor who saved $1 billion engine. News anchors dissected the story on morning shows. Social media flooded with praise. The company's stock jumped 12% before lunch, and reporters camped outside the glass tower, shouting questions into the wind. Cassandra Wolfe stepped from her car, sunglasses shielding tired eyes. The moment she entered the lobby, the whispers began. Employees who once avoided her gaze now looked at her differently, some impressed, others quietly gloating. Power, she realized, had changed hands overnight, and no memo could bring it back. Upstairs, the executive floor buzzed with damage control. PR drafted inclusive innovation statements. Marketing tested slogans like, "Listening is the new leadership." Legal rewrote contracts to secure rights to the Hydra Drive technology. And in the center of the chaos stood Darius Cole, wearing a borrowed blazer and an expression that mixed humility with quiet disbelief. "Mr. Cole," a reporter called, "how did you figure out what all these engineers missed?" Darius smiled faintly. "I listened. Machines talk, if you care enough to hear them." Laughter rippled through the room, followed by a barrage of questions. "What's next for you? Will you lead a team?" He hesitated, glancing at Dr. Aiko Tanaka beside him. "I'm still learning, but if there's something broken, I'll fix it." Aiko stepped forward, voice calm but resolute. "As of this morning, Mr. Cole is officially promoted to Senior Diagnostic Engineer. His intuition and technical insight will guide Horizon's next generation of harmonic AI engines." Applause and camera. Flashes erupted. Cassandra watched from the edge of the crowd, her smile thin and rehearsed. Brad Holman leaned toward her. "The board's calling an emergency meeting," he whispered. "They mentioned restructuring." Her voice was ice. Of course they did. When the conference ended, Darius slipped away to the lab for a breath of silence. The Hydra Drive sat humming softly, steady as a heartbeat. He placed a hand on its polished casing. "You're finally singing, right?" he murmured. Aiko entered with 2 coffees. "You handled yourself well," she said, handing him one. "I just told the truth," he replied. "Didn't think listening would make headlines." Aiko smiled. "Sometimes the truth is revolutionary when no one's been listening for too long." Before he could answer, Cassandra appeared in the doorway, composed but pale. "Congratulations," she said evenly. "You've made quite an impression." "Thank you, ma'am," Darius replied. Her eyes narrowed. "I underestimated you. That won't happen again." Aiko crossed her arms. "Good, because next time, that mistake might destroy you, not him." Cassandra ignored her. "Enjoy the spotlight, Mr. Cole. Headlines fade, applause dies, and when they do, you'll still be here. Remember who gave you access to that room." Darius's voice was calm but firm. And I'll remember who tried to lock it. For a long moment, the three stood in silence until Cassandra turned, heels echoing down the corridor like the last beat of an old empire. That evening, the courtyard filled with employees celebrating. The prototype truck glided across the pavement, lights glowing beneath the Texas sunset. Aiko raised a glass. To the man who reminded us that genius wears every color and every uniform. The crowd cheered as Darius smiled shyly, unaware that across the city skyline, Cassandra stood at her window, watching the reflection of a world she no longer controlled. On her phone screen, a headline glowed like a verdict. The janitor who saved Horizon Robotics. For the first time in her life, Cassandra Wolfe had no words left, because the story no longer belonged to her. 2 weeks later, Horizon Robotics was almost unrecognizable. The air that once carried tension now hummed with optimism. Employees who had lived in fear began to smile again. At the center of that quiet revolution was Darius Cole, the man who had gone from invisible janitor to senior diagnostic engineer. His new badge gleamed on his chest, but he still carried the same calm humility that had saved the company. Under his guidance, the Hydra Drive project evolved into something bigger. Engineers from across the country came to study his harmonic calibration method. He taught them not from manuals, but through rhythm, how machines could sing if you knew how to listen. Horizon's culture began to shift with him. For the first time, the company valued intuition as much as data, but not everyone celebrated. Inside a glass-walled boardroom, Cassandra Wolfe sat facing the directors. Gone was her command of the room. Now she was the one being evaluated. Patricia Brooks, the board chair, spoke evenly. Ms. Wolfe, we've reviewed internal communications and investor reports. There are concerns about your leadership style. Cassandra's fingers tightened around her folder. I saved this company. The Hydra Drive works. The investors are thrilled. Patricia's gaze stayed steady. It works because of a man you publicly mocked and nearly fired. A man who now defines Horizon's reputation for integrity. Another board member added, Our investors see you as the symbol of a toxic hierarchy. That image conflicts with the company's new direction. Cassandra swallowed. You're demoting me. Patricia didn't deny it. You'll remain a strategic advisor. Dr. Tanaka will oversee research and development. Mr. Cole will lead diagnostics. A bitter laugh escaped Cassandra. You're handing my company to a janitor and a foreign consultant? Patricia folded her hands. We're handing it to people who listen. The meeting adjourned. Cassandra gathered her papers, her reflection fractured in the glass walls that once magnified her power. For the first time, the silence followed her out. Downstairs, Darius worked alongside a group of young engineers, calibrating a new Hydra Drive prototype. Precision isn't about numbers, he said, adjusting a valve. It's about rhythm. If it feels off, it probably is. Aiko watched from the doorway, her expression gentle. They actually listen to you now, she said. Darius smiled slightly. It's not me they hear. It's the lesson. That evening, Horizon's auditorium filled with employees for the relaunch of the Hydra Drive line. Cameras rolled, but this time the spotlight was shared. Cassandra sat quietly among the crowd, no longer the queen, but a witness. Patricia Brooks took the stage. 2 months ago, this company stood on the edge of collapse. Tonight, we celebrate the people who rebuilt it, not through power, but through humility. She gestured toward Darius. Applause thundered as Darius approached the podium. He cleared his throat. I'm not used to speeches, he began, earning laughter. What happened here wasn't just about fixing an engine. Machines, like people, need connection. When they lose harmony, everything falls apart. But when you learn to listen, things start working again. In the audience, Cassandra stared down at her hands, the word striking deeper than she expected. When the ceremony ended, she found Darius in the hallway. Her tone was quiet, almost uncertain. You changed everything. Darius shook his head. The truth did that. I just didn't ignore it. She nodded slowly. I was wrong about you. About a lot of things. He smiled softly. Growth isn't weakness, Ms. Wolfe. It's the beginning of understanding. Cassandra let out a slow breath, the edge in her posture melting. You really believe people can change? I have to, he said. Otherwise, what's the point of fixing anything? She nodded once, then walked away, leaving him beneath the soft glow of the horizon sign that shimmered across the courtyard. That night, as the Texas wind swept over the glass tower, the company's lights glowed with new meaning, a monument to second chances and the power of being heard. The janitor had become the teacher, and the empire he saved had finally learned to listen. 6 months later, Horizon Robotics stood as a symbol of redemption. The once failing tech firm was now hailed across continents. The Hydra drive system powered fleets of autonomous trucks in North America, Germany, and Japan. Journalists called it a revolution born from humility. Inside the company, a new motto gleamed beneath the logo: innovation through empathy. Darius Cole walked through the Austin research facility, sunlight glinting off the polished floors. The rhythmic hum of engines filled the space, machines running in harmony, alive and balanced. A young engineer looked up. It's holding steady at 98% efficiency, sir. Darius smiled. That's how you know she's breathing right. Dr. Aiko Tanaka joined him, clipboard in hand. You've built more than an engine, she said. You rebuilt trust. That's harder. He chuckled softly. Funny thing about leadership. It's not about speaking louder. It's about listening better. Across the lab, the engineers paused their work to applaud as a new Hydra Drive prototype completed its first flawless test. Darius felt the same quiet pride he once saw in his grandfather's eyes, back in that small garage in Atlanta where it all began. Later that day, he joined a virtual meeting with Horizon's European division. Klaus Miller from Munich smiled through the screen. Your resonance bridge technology has exceeded expectations. We'd like you to present at the International Engineering Summit in Tokyo next month. Darius blinked. You want me to speak? Who better? Aiko said, smiling beside him. When the call ended, she handed him a slim envelope. Inside was a framed certificate, patent number 9403, Coal Resonance Bridge. His name in embossed gold. For a long moment, he just stared at it, humbled. That evening, Horizon hosted a celebration in the atrium. The room shimmered with light and laughter. Patricia Brooks, chair of the board, lifted a glass. 6 months ago, this company was lost. Tonight, it stands stronger because one man reminded us that innovation begins with humility. Applause thundered. Darius stepped forward to the microphone. I used to think success belonged to people with the right titles or degrees, he said. But machines and people don't care who you are. They care if you show up, listen, and do the work. Cheers filled the hall. From the back, Cassandra Wolfe watched quietly. The sharp edges that once defined her had softened. After the event, she approached him. You've done something extraordinary, she said gently. Darius smiled. So did you once. Maybe it just needed a tune-up. Cassandra laughed, the sound unguarded. I earned that, but I'm proud of what Horizon's become. And of what you've become. He nodded. We fixed more than an engine. They shook hands. Two people who had finally learned that power meant nothing without understanding. Later, as night fell, Darius stood alone on the terrace overlooking the Austin skyline. The Horizon logo glowed across the building, his patent etched beside it in silver letters. The wind carried the faint hum of engines, steady and strong. He thought of his grandfather's words. Engines don't lie, boy. They just need someone who listens. He smiled at the memory. I'm listening, Grandpa, he whispered. A camera drone hovering nearby caught his silhouette framed against the glowing city, a quiet man standing in the light he'd earned. The image would soon headline Horizon's next campaign. Hidden talent, heard at last. Because sometimes the loudest revolutions begin in silence, with one person willing to hear what others ignore. And as the city pulsed below him, Darius Cole finally understood that his story wasn't just about machines, it was about people finding harmony in a world built on noise.